Hello, solo of the month, and happy November 2025, where we're working on the Pokorny Concerto in G, also sometimes called the Boccherini Concerto in G. It has been falsely attributed to Boccherini throughout much of our history, but Pokorny wrote it around 1780. So we'll think of this as an earlier classical period piece and treat it with a little bit of love in that way. So before we start playing too much, how is everyone feeling about this piece? What's your experience with it so far? Go ahead and unmute yourself and let's just take a second and chat and get to know each other a little bit better. Say your name, where you are, and what kind of experience you've had with this piece and what you're thinking about practicing it so far.
Okay, I'll go first. So I'm Daniel, and I'm up, as Matthew might say, in Toronto or in Canada. I'm in Toronto, and I mentioned to Mary Ellen a few minutes ago that this was played this in 1975. It was the first piece I had a real teacher in high school assigned it to me. He was a Baroque lover, and at the time he claimed it was Baroque, but I like that it's in the major key. I've been playing a lot of stormy. I was going to say something not nice. I was going to say, or so stuff, another S word. I've been playing a lot of stormy stuff from the Romantic era, and I have a tendency to schmaltz everything up that I play. So it was really good for me uh, to try to play it a few times. I've been pretty busy, but I only tried to play it a couple times this week, and to try to respect the meter much more um, in a more disciplined way and hearing the crispness of the strings behind it.
And yeah, Daniel, you have been playing a lot of stormy romantic music, and so has this group. So the previous 3 months, we practiced the Gobert Sonata, and that was pretty French romantic. And so I actually picked this piece because it just seemed like it was going to be so light and refreshing compared to all of that French romantic music that we were playing. So I'm glad that you're finding that to be the case for you too.
Yeah, it was
Wonderful.
really nice to hear it. Playing D major instead of D minor.
All right, what other thoughts do we have around this piece and your experience with it? Mary Ellen, what
Daniel?
about you?
Okay. Mary Ellen. I'm in Montreal, Canada, also. Yay, Canada on this call. um, my because I've been playing also a lot of romantic stuff, and also in the orchestra, Christmas music. Um, I it's nice to get back to something you know, timed and, classical baroque, timing and very strict rules and I'm quite enjoying it actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, haven't had a lot of time this week, unfortunately, or the past couple of weeks. Actually, it's been crazy. But running through it again, it's something I have played in the past, so it was a lovely reminder because I started playing it and went, oh, this one, and because it doesn't always come to mind what it is I'm playing, and yeah, love it, great choice as far as I'm concerned.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then Lynn, have you had an experience with this piece before and how are you feeling with it right
No,
now?
I have not. Yeah, I live in Massachusetts. I live not that far from Tanglewood, so I have some experience going there and listening to some nice concerts. And I got to see James Galway for his 70th birthday concert. It was probably 10 years ago now, or more. Um, but same thing, I kind of liked getting back to something with a definite beat and just found it a little bit easier than the romantic style. I do have a flute now with a C sharp trill key, which I'm not real familiar with, so I wouldn't mind a little help if you have some information in dealing with that.
Oh yeah, and that could be very useful at our cadential trill in measure 80, that B to C sharp. Um, and also at 76, that same B to C
76.
sharp trill there.
Yes, yes, I did use it in those two places. Yes.
Fantastic. And for those of who might be watching this later, who might not know the C sharp trill, so on some flutes, an additional key is added just below the two trill keys, and it is played above the lever or side B flat key, and it's called the C sharp trill key, and it has a couple of really only a couple of useful applications, but those couple of useful applications tend to be pretty useful. So yeah, we'll talk about using that trill key on that B to C sharp trill too. Wonderful.
I find that it's a nice smooth trill, more so than some of the others.
Oh, wonderful, great. And Rita, is there anything that you'd like to share about this piece? No pressure if you're just wanting to audit today. Just want to check in with everybody to make sure they have an opportunity to be a part as much as they want. Excellent. So as always, I like to just do a very short warm up together. I'm going to send in the chat just a little PDF, and I'm going to open up it on screen too, so that way people who are watching this later can see what we're doing. This first movement of the concerto, as wonderful as it is relatively simple in a few ways, and there's only a couple of scales that we need to know in order to play this successfully. And those scales are typed out for you so that way you don't even have to worry about playing them from memory, including the D major scale. This is a concerto in D, so that's going to be found a whole lot. So let's just start by playing the D major scale. We'll do 1 octaves. I'll invite you to use this rhythm printed. It is not the rhythm I normally use to practice scales, but I did choose this rhythm partly because many of these scales are approached from a tie or a longer first note. So we'll just take D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D. And of course, you can play it slower as you get used to it, or work it faster. So this is the scale that we see the ascending run in measure 31, in measure 35, in measure 42, in measure 44. You get the point. This scale happens a lot. We'll also do the lower octave. We don't have the run in the lower octave as much, but we also want to make sure that we can play the low D because they do come up. So starting the D major scale 1 octave in the lower register, 1, 2, ready. So it's always great to practice our scales and have the foundation ready. The 5th scale degree of D, D, E, F sharp, G, A, is A, and that's the dominant. We have a lot of movement of A major scales as well, and we have some of the middle section is going to feel like it's in that dominant key of A major. So let's go ahead and practice the A major scale with a G sharp in the key signature. Ready. And again, the ascending portion we'll see in measure 66. We'll see it in measure 53 and other places. Take it up the octave for fun. We won't see it up the octave as much in this piece, but there are sections, especially if you're doing the octave leaps and continuing up the range of the flute like I'm going to, that just getting that upper register warmed up is a good idea. And then finally, the 3rd scale that we need for this first movement, there's only 3 scales that we need for this first movement, is the B melodic minor scale. And in the music, we only see the ascending version of this, but you'll notice that the melodic minor shares a key signature of its relative major, so it shares that D major key signature, 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. As we ascend or go from the dominant up to the next octave tonic, we raise the 6th and 7th scale degree. So from the F sharp, we're going to then raise the G sharp, A sharp to the B, and when we descend, we put them back to how they are in the natural minor or related to the relative major. So the A natural and G natural, the only 2 sharps are the ones in the key signature. So B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, A natural, G natural, F sharp, E, D, C sharp, B. Let's give that scale a go. And we can find that scale a couple of times throughout this piece, for example, in measure 133 and 135. So those three scales, once we practice them, we can play most of the technique of this piece. And doesn't that feel good? All right, how do we feel about those scales? Are we okay? Everyone feel all right with those three scales? Of course, practice them as much as you want between now and the time that you are going to end this piece. But let's just do one more warm-up, a simple octave slur exercise, because we have so many ascending leaps and intervals in this piece. Measures 73 and 74 and 75 have those octaves. We have the octave leaps coming in again toward the end, measure 207 and 8, etc. So this is going to be D major diatonic, just notes of the D major scale for this warm-up. Of course, you can do chromatic, you can do other intervals, but for now, let's just go through this octave slurs. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, ready. And if you want, you can do C sharp and D. So in the music, I believe in the original version, G is the highest interval that we have. I added the A and the B because my preferred way of playing the ending is to continue the sequence of those octave slurs all the way up to the high B. So what I mean by that, if you look at measure 207, the addition that I have has which is great. And if you want to play that, do. I'm going to continue the sequence, meaning continue the ascending octaves. Because I like it that way. So I'm going to then warm up that way. These simple octave intervals make sense to everybody? All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I just want to ask you all, what are some other ways that you like to practice your intervals? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Yeah. Sorry, we mute between things just to make sure there's no dog barking, background noises, you know,
Harmonic.
partners doing things. Mary Ellen, harmonics. Yes, brilliant.
I do step up. I don't know what you'd call it. I go.
Oh, and you'll have to hit the original sound for musician on, Daniel.
You know what? I don't know where it is. I'm really sorry.
Okay.
I used to know where it was.
And then any other thoughts on practicing our intervals?
De la Sonorité is a good reference. Some of the exercises in there I use.
Yeah, and even I think it's the first one in the book has the growing interval, the but there's tons of great exercises in the Moïse books. So yeah, and then Mary Ellen mentioned harmonics, where we're purposefully overblowing some of the lower note fingerings. Those are also very, very useful. And a third way an additional way that I like to do interval practice is the drawn octaves or the octave smears. We've talked about those in a few of the classes, where you try to stop halfway between moving between octaves to get that gritty, distorted sound, and then continue to the beautiful pure octave, dip down into it, and then return to it. And this is really useful for developing or toning the muscles that are going to be used to control the octaves. And I love that exercise especially for descending octaves because it helps us clear up the descent. So lots of ways of practicing our intervals. In this particular piece, we really only need to focus much on ascending intervals. There are a couple of descending leaps, but nothing quite as large as those octaves that we have ascending. All right. And Mary Ellen, do you want to demonstrate any of your harmonic practice? Is there a fun way that you do that?
I actually follow what I have a couple of practice sheets from yourself, so I usually just do those. I start on a D and I just go upwards basically, because the lower is a pain in the rear end. I always miss the middle. The middle. And I just go up from there, each, chromatically, basically.
Right. Yeah, great. And yeah, that fifth is a little bit harder for us to hear.
The
and
fifths
sometimes
are always hard, I
So,
find.
of course, we just give those a little bit more love, right?
Yes.
And if you can figure out the fifth, then you can play the notes. So for that, in case hearing the A. Once we hear it, it's easier for us to also get there. So if you ever notice yourself wanting to skip the note, play the real fingering for a second. Maybe even play the interval.
Oh, that's smart.
So that way it's in your ear. We can audiate it that way, and it'll be easier for us to find with our lips when we know where it is that we're going.
Hi, can you just tell me whether the audio's clear now?
Still not getting any flute from you. Yeah, and are you on an iPad right now?
No, I'm on my laptop and I've got original sound for musicians clicked.
You did that in the main settings, and then you also clicked it on in the meeting itself?
In the meeting itself. Thanks. Sorry about that.
So yeah, we have to enable it in the app or the program, and then when every single time we join a meeting, we have to click it on again inside the meeting. Did you see that? Did you find that, Daniel?
I'll find it.
Okay, doke.
I don't want to take time, okay?
All right, sounds good. All right, and Marianne, did you have something else? Nope.
No, I was just indicating that it's up at the top.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sending him a message.
I got it.
You found it? Okay.
There you are.
There you
Okay,
are.
and
Okay,
what were you
and
going
what were you
to
going to
talk
talk
about,
about,
Daniel?
Daniel?
Oh, I was just going to say I do an octave where I so I step up when I do it and then I go up one note.
Oh, a little
Just a variation around an octave,
and then
Yeah.
adding a second note.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes that just makes it more beautiful
for us too.
Well, what it does for me is that makes me focus on not just the octave, but also the taper to warm up my lip, because I'm working on my breath and my lip when I'm doing the octaves, and so by doing that and tapering as I go to the semitone up, I'm activating two things at once in my head.
Wonderful. Any other thoughts of warming up for this
concerto?
Do we feel
Do we
warm?
feel warm?
I guess the other thing I might suggest is because that run, although you gave us the D major scale, one thing I like to do is I like to increase the velocity of my scale. So I'll do this regular speed and whatever it was, half notes or sixteenths, and then I'll do it as triplets, and then I'll do it as, if I was in eighths, then I do it as sixteenths, and then triplets from sixteenths, and then grouping of eight, so that I'm working towards a run. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to demonstrate that with
Do you want to
maybe
demonstrate
the
that
D
with
major
maybe
scale?
the D major scale?
With which scale?
Let's go with D.
D major?
Let's go with D.
And I do that twice, and then And then and then then I go to 5, and then I go to 8.
Yeah, that's great. I used to do that quite a lot when I was too lazy to change my metronome, so I just wanted to get faster. So I do each scales in twos, threes, fours, fives, sixes, and sevens to get through the octave. Plus, it makes doing an octave run within one beat less scary when you make it part of your regular practice. So thank you, Daniel, for having that be something that you show that you practice quite a lot. And Daddy, I muted you because for some reason when I talk and you're unmuted, there's echo. So go ahead and unmute yourself again.
70 beats per minute is a nice one to work with. So starting with the quarter note, 70 beats per minute, and then if you're doing it, you have to do it in 2 octaves in order to do the triplets. And at the bottom of the triplet, you add a semitone down from it.
Sure. And if you're just wanting to do one octave, then you can figure out triplets that way too. Going up to the E note above and then adding the C sharp just below. So if you are only wanting to practice one octave for one reason or another, you can figure out how to make it groups of 3 too. Awesome. All right, so our technique is warmed up, our air is warmed up. Lynn, I think that you mentioned that you would go ahead and demonstrate the opening of this for us.
Okay. How about if I play till measure 37?
Sounds great.
Sorry, I feel a little uncomfortable. I'll start again.
You're doing great, and I know it's so nervous playing in front of other people, right? So just take a calm breath in and let it out and know that we're all here together. Wonderful job, and thank you for being brave to be our first person to demonstrate today. Nicely done. Lynn, can you tell us 1 or 2 things about your playing that you enjoyed or that you're proud of or that you liked?
In general, I didn't feel that great about what I just did, but in general, I think by tone, I'm usually happy with.
Yeah, your tone was quite nice. It was very clear. It's so much easier for us to be critical of ourselves than it is to celebrate what we do well. But if we are only critical, then it just becomes no fun. So I do want to encourage you to celebrate the great things that you did. Your tone was great. Your articulation was nice. Note-wise, you did wonderfully. Why don't you just go ahead and play through it again now that you've gotten, you've jumped in the pool. Now the second time's going to feel a little bit better, right? And then we can talk about things in more detail.
Did a little better so I could try the trills.
Wonderful. All right. So your confidence came up enough. You even added a few more measures this time. So that was really great. Your the first D major scale was much more clean that time too. So you were getting more of the notes. It is interesting when we look at this music because the very next C in those measures is marked natural. Sometimes our mind wants to automatically make the ascending C also natural. But that time you nailed those C sharps. So just remind yourself they're D major scales. That was great. Your the little grace notes that you had in measure 32 were nice and crisp, and everything sounded really good. How'd you feel about it?
Not bad.
It's good.
Very good.
And since Lynn demonstrated a little bit further, in 32, I do think those are crushed appoggiatura or grace notes, like she demonstrated, making them quick and before the beat. So nice and crisp. Whereas since she went on this time at measure 40 and 39, those will be appoggiatura where they take on half of the value of the note that they're ornamenting. And Lynn also demonstrated that wonderfully. So they'll be played like 16th notes with a little bit of a lean on those appoggiatura. So wonderful job with those ornaments and showing the difference between the two, even though most editions we see don't do a good job of showing the difference between those two types of ornaments. Crushed appoggiatura should have a slash through them to show that they're to be played quickly and before the beat, whereas appoggiatura should not have a slash, but many editions don't do the difference between those things. And Daniel, did you have a comment or question?
Why do they even why do they even bother putting it like that? What's the difference between playing that and playing 4/16 notes?
You know, it is a very good question why they didn't just write the rhythm the way they wanted them to, especially since appoggiatura comes from the Italian to lean. So, like, we want to lean on the first of those notes. They could have just written 4/16 notes with a tenuto, right? And some modern editions, or some, I shouldn't say modern, some student editions of music will do just that. But it is just how it was done. And, you know, Daniel, I know I'm a little bit old, but I'm not old enough to remember what happened in 1780, either, or why they was making those choices. So good question. If anybody out there like a history buff that knows why they would have done that?
I can speak for the other people in this line. We're a little bit young. So yeah, so in other words, this was just a convention at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So Lynn, back to your playing. I thought it was wonderful. Could we now, since I asked you what you enjoyed, are there things that where you feel there's opportunity for improvement or growth? Are there any things that you would like to talk about in that?
Playing those 30-second runs a little more cleanly, and maybe getting the tempo. I'm noticing Allegro Moderato 126.
Oh yeah, I actually liked your tempo. It can go faster, but I don't think it needs to. As far as getting those D major scales faster, of course, just doing metronome work with the D major scale, maybe trying a couple of those patterns like Daniel described. Sometimes with these scales too, I like to approach them backwards. So top-down scales where I add a note, and I'm going to invite you to do this with me. So let's do just quarter notes, D and C sharp. So rather than start at the beginning of the scale, let's start at the end. Go ahead. It's just the D, C sharp.
Oh.
Yep, two notes. Quarter notes. D, C sharp. Good. And now let's add a B, and we're going to think eighth notes. Let me demonstrate. Try that, Lynn. Good. We're going to add the A and think triplet. Try that. Sixteenths to the G. Five tuplets to the F sharp. Six tuplets to the E. And isn't it so interesting how our mind automatically wants to complete the pattern and go to the D? Try those sixes to the E again and really land at that E. And then last, sevens to the D. And this is another one where you can just leave the metronome set to being at that one tempo, and then as you add a note, it gets faster. Starting at the end is good for our mind, kind of like when we do the puzzle, the mazes. Starting at the end of the maze on the back of a cereal box is a little easier for us to work our way out. But also when we are moving into familiar territory, things that you've experienced before, our mind is more eager to go to that familiar territory. Whereas if you always start at the beginning, our mind is hesitant to explore new territory or things that it's not as comfortable doing. So practicing from the end and adding a note, whether it's this way where we did it kind of forward and backwards, is great. But also you can, if it's a weird interval thing and going forward and backwards doesn't make sense, just going back, like starting with the last note, last 2 notes, last 3 notes, last 4 notes kind of a thing, is also really great for the mind's ability to learn these things. Plus, it gives us another pattern to practice these scales, right? So how'd that feel?
Good. Yeah.
And then Lynn, just two little things that I think could be enjoyable. So when we have these repeated pitches, like in the first measure we play, we have a couple of Ds in a row. I think it would be interesting if you made each D have a little bit more character than the one before, so there's some kind of movement or growth. So I like when there's especially 3 Ds in a row, like beat 3, 4, and then the downbeat 1, going from measures 30 to 31. I think some, more, most, right? So a little bit of lift on the first, less lift on the second, and even more legato on the third. So each one's a little bit longer than one before. Each one has a little bit more spin. Try just doing 3 Ds in a row like that. D, 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 some, more, most. Yeah, that was great. Do it again. And I think you will not be surprised how many places you can apply that concept to this piece that's going to help then also project the music going forward. Will you start that opening phrase again with that in mind on those first few Ds?
Whoops,
No, it's all right though, but how did that feel to grow through those Ds?
good.
You've got some big head nods going on out there. Did you all listening feel a little bit more direction and purpose to the music she was playing? So it's those subtle choices that we make as performers. The composer didn't write a staccato over the first one, and a staccato tenuto over the second one, and a tenuto over the third one. They're not going to waste the ink to do that. But you as a performer get to make those choices, and voila, it had so much more interest and direction. So I thought that was beautifully done. And then one more comment before I have you play it one final time. Thank you, Lynn, for being the first person to play. In measure, let's see, 36, 37. In measure 38, those slur twos, I think we can have a little bit of stress release type of movement. And I usually think of depressing words when I think of agogic accents like weeping, sighing, dying, crying, like with those gerunds where the ing is less important. But this is so happy. As Daniel pointed out, we're in D major, we're finally not so moody. So if you can think of some 2-syllable words like jumping, laughing, like happy words where you're still stressing the first part. Where you've got a little bit more emphasis on the first note and then a little bit of lift on the second note. What other words do we have that are happy, that are either gerunds or 2 syllables where we stress the first syllable?
Flying.
Flying.
Not really.
All right, and Daniel, I know you also speak French, so you might have a few of those. All right, Lynn, let's try that right there. Gorgeous. And when it starts to go faster, it's going to seem less like you're making the second note short. Instead, it's just going to have that like B, B, B. It's going to just have that nice movement going forward. So I love that thought. This trill, where you were just about to approach, I think this is one where it's appropriate for us to add the A appoggiatura, otherwise calling it trilling from above. So this is one, especially since it's preceded by the same note, that if we add the A appoggiatura, it'll help us hear it as a separate ornament. So maybe try that trill right there with an added A. Good. And in context? Bravo. All right. Wonderful. I think that's most of the comments that I just wanted to see about adding in to enhance our experience of this opening a little bit more. Lynn, now that we've had those conversations, would you play through the opening one more time and see how much of that feels like it sticks? Wonderful. Everyone was nodding their head in yes. And one thing that I didn't specifically say, but that you did on your own, measure 32. You started giving those repeated notes a little bit more direction too. All on your own. That was wonderful, Lynn. Bravo.
Oh, thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions from you?
I will say that I broke bones in this left hand, and I had surgery, so about a year and a half ago. So I feel like sometimes the trills, my fingers don't want to move as fast as they used to. So
we've got to be patient with our bodies as they are with us today. You know, and thank you, Daniel, for saying that I'm a young flute player, but I'm not as young as I used to be either. And there are things that are changing. There are things that aren't as easy for me to do. And also, maybe it just takes a little bit of a different approach to feel different muscles take that. So when we practice trills in context, there's so much more tension. There's so much more like mental stimulation. So it might just be worth doing the trill exercise. Taffnella Gobert number 17 is just trills, right? But in this case, and I didn't put it as part of the warm-up, but with our discussion, I thought it would be really great. If we just did the D major scale with diatonic trills, and just isolated the trills themselves before we played this, then probably it would feel a little bit more comfortable too. But yeah, if there's been hand surgery, there might be scar tissue and other things that it's going to take a little while to rediscover the comfort in your hands.
yes.
Wonderful job. Thank you so much, Lynn.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Well, I'm going to ask a question about the section that Lynn played, and bravo to you, Lynn.
Okay.
Bar 32, how much lift or separation can you demonstrate, Matthew, between the second and third beat, the end of the second and the third beat?
Between the B and the C sharp, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. There can be some amount of separation. But what we have here is a scale. So I think as long as it's clear that you're... So I'm going to mute you again because the echo. I think as long as it's clear that you have the direction moving from B, C sharp to the D, then a bit of lift or space is fine. It's the intention of the space. If your space can either interrupt and stop, or space can have just lift and continue forward. So, and that's also going to be partially the context of the tempo. So, you know, the faster you go, little lifts make a bigger difference the faster you go, right? A 30-second note lift when you're playing at 60 is much bigger space than a 30-second note lift when you're playing at 120. Great question, though. And Daniel, since you're there, I think you mentioned also playing around measure 50, that section. We'd love to hear you do something there if you wouldn't mind. Since, and unmute yourself. Sorry, I had muted you again.
Okay, very good. So just, I guess I'm putting an appoggiatura on the first one. Is that correct? That's all I wanted. That's kind of what I want to know. Ah. Ugh. I don't know. It feels so awkward to me.
I agree. It is. And sorry, I'm muting you. So we're going to play the mute game. Just for some reason with you, I get echo. But yes, some of these trills are quite awkward, especially on these modern flutes. We also need to remember with some of these ornamentations that this wasn't written for this instrument. It was probably written more for an instrument that looked more like this, right? And this flute plays in D major on its own. So the fingering that's like F, RF to E would actually be the F sharp E. So some of those fingerings on that flute are different and easier. And some of them are just awkward. We'll be real. But the first question you had is about appoggiatura. I like all of these trills with the upper appoggiatura. I would even add one to measure 51 because I like it. To me, the upper appoggiatura just sounds nice. So
That's what I was afraid of.
sounding nice.
Sounding nice?
No, I was afraid of you saying that they should all have a appoggiatura. I played it with appoggiatura because I was going to try, and I hadn't practiced it much. But it sure would be nice not to, but I do like the way you played it.
Well, good. and as I like to quote my teacher Don Gottlieb often, there are more right ways to play things than wrong. So if sometimes it just feels right or sounds right to you to not do the upper appoggiatura, don't do it just to please me or to please a teacher or to please somebody else. Do what's going to sound right to you. Sometimes there's a lot of information that we can take from our own instincts. But since you asked, I do suggest those almost every trill in this piece from above.
Well, that was the question, and there was the answer.
Is there anything else that you'd like to play?
Sure, I'll do well, not necessarily. Would you like me to play anything else?
Well, I also make sure that Mary Ellen gets a chance to play at 70, which is probably going to be similar questions.
I can do it at 70 if you don't want to, Mary Ellen. But
I just don't rush for me. That's all I'm saying.
Daniel, was there something else around that section?
No, that was
all right,
well.
All right. We'll have time to come back then. Mary Ellen, why don't you go and jump to measure 70?
Okay. I'm going to do 71, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Like I said, I haven't really had an opportunity to practice it. And I'm sorry for the chorus behind me.
Oh, no. And no reason to be sorry. It sounded great. Thank you so much, Mary Ellen. And yes, so 70 and 71 are essentially the same measure as far as that trills goes. So it could be good to do it. One thing I do want to make sure that you take note of, 72, that G sharp is good for the entire measure.
I know. I know. It's my nemesis.
If you know it's a nemesis, then when you get a new piece of music, just grab the pencil and go through and mark whatever ones you think you might be like.
That's what I have to do. Yeah, you are entirely correct.
But, and I'm sorry I forgot to ask Daniel this too, but Mary Ellen, what are some things that you were happy with that?
The fact that I think it's secondary sight reading, basically. I mean, I've played it through a couple of times, but I was happy with that. I was happy with the fact that I was able to do the trill without using, because it's a new flute, and without using because I've never had one before, and I'm just used to it without using the C sharp trill. I tend to naturally add something flute teachers have always told me is I always naturally add the note before the appoggiatura. It's just innate in me. I don't know why, but even when I'm not supposed to, like, it's typical with this type of music, but not
band music.
Other types of classical necessarily, you don't want to add the note ahead of time. So at least I'm still doing that, but I have to learn how to use this key.
Yeah, and so we kind of mentioned at the beginning, so B to C sharp, you can do your index and thumb in sync with each other. The trill key, normal trill key works okay. And then if you have that C sharp trill key, the pitch is even better.
Amazing. Sorry, don't break the phrase, Mary Ellen. Okay, yeah. I'll have to get used to it.
Yeah.
Never used it before.
You get to get used to it. It's a bonus. It's a bonus that you don't
It
have
is
to
a bonus.
use,
That's not why I chose this flute.
Yeah, they're going to be, I think C-sharp trill keys are becoming more and more standard. Even a lot of student and intermediate flutes have C-sharp trill keys put on them now.
Yeah.
It's interesting how those flutes are getting, like things that used to be super expensive add-ons are now just like becoming part of our industry standard.
Honestly, I think 3 out of the 5 I tested had it. So, yeah.
And so where in this section, Mary Ellen, what are some things that you think that you would like to seek for more opportunity for growth?
I as I've noticed while playing with the orchestra, one thing that I'm having sort of issues with is moving in the upper register, and so because the fingering has to change for the the F sharp. The interval, the F sharp interval is just, I always break the higher note. Never fails. And I'm not really sure how to go about not doing that.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, was there a time that you didn't lift the middle finger for the high F sharp and you just overblew it extra
Probably.
hard?
I think that's probably what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. So let's first find your F sharp, the upper F sharp, and let's finger the high F sharp but underblow it. Do you remember doing this exercise?
Yeah.
Do you feel that F sharp just from the low? Huh? I think you release the high one even more. Yeah, so there's a desire for you to lift your head for that high F sharp too. So imagine that if you're on an elevator, it's a descending elevator. Try it really slow where you feel your body sink down. And those down muscles are the muscles to support anyway. So you don't need to do anything with your head, and you don't need to squeeze it quite so hard. Already better. Good. And then, of course, when you're trying this, give yourself some time for it to process what it is that you're doing. So the first one was great. And then the second one, you shifted your jaw for the high F sharp. And because once something like you're automatically going to try to go back into your most familiar habit, whether it's a good habit or not. So like the discipline of saying, this is what I am working to achieve right now. And then try it again. One more time. Just do the underblow. Okay. And then let's take the octave. Just feel the mouth, throat open, and just simply lift the one finger. And let's add an E. So already I'm hearing more warmth to the tone in those notes. And building trust of these intervals doesn't happen in one practice session, right?
I know.
Building trust with these intervals happens over a bit of time. I think that's really what it is for you, because I'm seeing less and less tension happening. But when you were playing it in context, you're like, oh, I've got to do it, right? And things just tighten up a little bit.
I've been retaught how to breathe in my mouth, because apparently some things changed from the time I learned in the 80s to now. So I'm working on it.
And you're doing great. Daniel,
Yeah, I just want to add, I'm working on the same stuff, Mary Ellen. Somebody said to me, what really helped me was when you go up, as well as what Matthew was saying about the body muscles and everything going downwards, you actually counterintuitively need to relax your body.
Yes. I know that.
The reverse, like this whole notion that as you go up, your body gets looser and spongier feeling. And it's so nice.
Yes.
And then we don't need to be, like, there's a piece I play that I have to hit a super high C in it. And so I'm now focusing on completely relaxing my body to hit the C, and it just comes right out.
Yes.
It's that trust building exercises. I don't know. Do trust falls or whatever? Oh no, that's not going to work. If it's just you and your flute, you'll drop your flute, won't it?
Let's not do that.
in a lot of my lessons, and I'll have the camera's not easy, but I'm sitting in my chair right now. But as I'm having students do their ascending, I'll have them actually plie, bend the knee, not bend forward with the body, but bend like they're just sinking straight down.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I'm cutting myself off, but. And it's part of it is because it's the opposite movement of what our tendency is. It starts to reprogram our mind as far as that goes too.
Okay,
so there's the physical benefit of bending the
suggestion.
knees and feeling the support of the legs. The glutes are one of our core muscles, and we don't talk about that as much when we're talking about core muscles. The movement of the pelvic floor, and all of those lower muscles of support are becoming differently engaged then, but also just the symbolism of dropping down as you're going up is the opposite of what our tendency is, right?
Yes.
So, great. And so since we talked about that, Mary Ellen, would you play through that section one more time?
Okay. Yeah.
You're
It was a
doing
little
great, and
sideways.
your little chorus is also great. All right, Mary Ellen, you're sounding
Murdered
really
him.
good. Are there any more questions or feelings
No,
or thoughts that
no,
you want
no.
to share out?
Nope.
And
Thank
then
you.
Daniel, I didn't mean to be so short with your section earlier. Is there something else that you'd like to play? No? Another part? Oh, you're muted.
The correct fingering for the trill, if you don't have a C sharp trill, the last one. That all? Just that?
Yeah,
I
so
do
the,
have it.
Or do you want it?
and so and also I think we mentioned the first trill key, the pitch is a little bit off, but the technique is smoother, so that is an option. Yeah, and I think that pitch is more obviously not great with the trill key on your flute than it is on mine, but it's not bad. And if it feels easier, then it might be worth doing. But your question is also. Sorry, I'm going to mute you. Your question is also, should it be from above? I read a paper in school, which was a long time ago, where if the trill is preceded by a step below the trill from the note. I don't remember who wrote that paper. So the A is the step below the B. But I've also heard a lot of people always trill from above. So in this particular case, I'm not going to say it should be, but I think it could be either.
So when I learned that rule that you just referred to, that the lower, but I think because we've done so many of them along the way that it's kind of nice to.
I also feel like since these are both cadential trills, I think it's more dramatic. So I like them that way personally, but either way is fine. And just depends on whose book you read, like one treatise was being written in one country, another treatise is being written by another flute player in another country. And of course, I mean, we know this in modern day flute life too. Every teacher's individual opinion is the right opinion, right? You could have been studying with one teacher that said, trill it from the note. And you could have been studying with another teacher saying, trill it from above. Even in 1780, I'm sure there's probably people who had differing opinions back then. So don't get hung up on it. Do what feels right and sounds right to you. We're none of us doing this for a grade, right? Anybody have a jury next week? Me neither. We're none of us doing this to get, we're not charging for our solo of the month posts. We're not doing this for pay where people are like, I want my refund for listening to your YouTube channel or for listening to your post on Facebook. Let's just do what is going to feel great for us. Any other general thoughts or questions or comments about this piece, the Pokorny Concerto in D, also sometimes called the Briccialdi Concerto in D?
Yeah, I have a question. What do you think about, it was great, it's great, and I'm going to continue to play it, but what do you think about performing something that was originally written for for orchestra when it's not? Would you go to something that was actually written for flute and piano, or would you say, oh, well, we'll just deal with having a reduction?
I appreciate reductions because they make so much more music more accessible to many of us. This piece also wasn't written for metal flute, but I am enjoying it on my metal flute. So there's a lot of things where I say, if it's fun to play it. There are good orchestral reductions for piano, and there are less good orchestral reductions for piano. With My Pianist app, I think that Yuho did an amazing job. I'm pretty sure he actually edited his own piano score orchestral reduction of this piece. But Yuho is, without any exaggeration, he's a super genius musician. He's brilliant. So he plays all of this music on violin and piano. So My Pianist app is him actually playing digital piano directly into the input system. It's not just MIDI kind of a thing. So So if there's an orchestral reduction that sucks, then look for another one. But I think it's great to access the music, even if it was written for orchestra. And if you have the means, hire an orchestra. I don't. Any other thoughts or questions about this piece? It has been so fun to spend my Saturday morning with you all, and I look forward to doing this again. A reminder, next month we're going to be playing one of the pieces by Daniel Dorff, and that will be provided to you. The one movement will be provided to everybody, compliments of Daniel Dorff himself and Presser Music Publishing. They're giving us free access to one of the 4 movements that you would find in his Nocturnes for the Nativity. And the movement that we will be doing is the last movement of the 4, which is the Nocturne on It Came Upon a Midnight Clear. It is a lovely one-pager. These nocturnes, all 4 of them, kind of take the simple Christmas carol tune, and then there's some kind of variation on it. So it becomes a little bit more virtuosic for flute. So it doesn't just sound like you're playing just melody. It sounds like you're playing something written for flute. So all 4 of these are really quite beautifully done. I just played through all 4 of them a couple of days ago. And now I'm going to have to go get my Christmas tree out from the basement and put it up, I think. But Daniel is going to be doing some kind of talk with us too, about his compositions. Daniel Dorff, if you haven't met him, is one of the kindest and most generous composers out there. He's actually a clarinet player, but he's an honorary flute player. He came to... He's so supportive of this group. He's come to my talks and performances before. He's just a really amazing person. So I'm really looking forward for us to connect with him a little bit next month with his Nocturnes for the Nativity, and specifically do It Came Upon a Midnight Clear. In January, just a heads up, we're going to be premiering a newly written piece of music for flute and piano. We will be the first people to ever perform it. And the composer is asking that we send him our recordings from it because he doesn't have any recordings of it yet. So you'll have something to look forward to in the new year. And then I'm hoping to have the next 4 months, January, February, March, April, and May, be ready to be announced by next month. So if people want to do a purchase through Flute World, they can just do a big purchase at once rather than trying to do it every month. So the Allison 2025 code is good, obviously, for the remainder of this year for 10% off all sheet music and accessories, not just the solos that we're performing, any sheet music, any accessory, Altieri bags, Hercules stands, the flute wands, all of your sheet music, flute choir music, solo flute music, what etude books, it's all 10% off. But I think we'll have a new code in 2026, obviously, probably Allison 2026. So keep that in mind as we start to prepare for what's going to be coming next. If you're asking for any sheet music for Christmas or Hanukkah or your holiday of winter where you want to make sure that you're stocking up, share that code with your people who might be helping you stock up too. And I will see you all next time.